Hello everybody and welcome to Snetterton for the third week of asking in the Lame Sheep Racing's British Touring Car Series here for the winter 25/26 season. We have completed 6 rounds on offer so far. We have 3 more coming up tonight around the fantastic Snetterton circuit. The 300 layout, which means that we are running the full thing, and it is going to be a tricky one to get these TCR machines around, but drivers have been out there getting their practice in, hoping to find a good qualifying lap. Matt Neal currently the fastest in the practice session. If he is able to replicate that going into the upcoming qualifying session, it'll be our third different pole sitter in the first 3 qualifying sessions of the season. Matt Neal taking his first win of the season in round number 6, the third race of asking at the Donington circuit. He did the entire weekend on dry tyres. They came into their own in race number 3, and he was able to place his car right at the front of the field at the end of that one. No rain expected today, though. It is going to be nice and dry, sunny out there as well. Some updates going into this round then after what was a interesting Donington event with the driving standards. There have been 7 drivers that have been excluded from the remainder of the season. So they are going to continue to stay on our championship standings, but we won't see them back out on track again for the rest of this season. There are also a couple of rule changes. So we now have a 15x instant limit, which means if drivers are breaching those instant limits, getting into a bit of a scuffle throughout the races, then they will have to come down pit lane to serve a drive-through penalty. And the third race on offer is no longer going to be a full reverse grid. For now, it is going to be a top 6 reverse grid, but that will be under review whether we increase the numbers in the future events. However, here for the 7th, 8th and 9th round of this season, we are going to be seeing currently a nice, healthy grid of TCR machines going to be heading around to put in some good lap times. You can see some teammates there working together to find the time around here, whereas at the moment Matt Neal is almost half a second clear on the rest of the field. Talking about the rounds that we have on offer then, we still have a fantastic 6 weeks ahead of us following the Snetterton round today. We head across to Thruxton next week on November 23rd. Before we head across and back to Oulton Park for the end of November. Of course, we visited Oulton Park at the beginning of the season. That was without the Britain chicane. The Oulton Park circuit that will be going on week number 5. That will be the Island circuit, which cuts out the fast left-hander. We saw race leader Dan Mould go around on the opening round. Actually, that was round number 2, so the second race that day. We head across to Brands Hatch Indy on December 14th before going across to Knockhill on December 21st, and that will be the final round of this year. We head into 2026. On January 4th, across to my own home circuit, it's the Silverstone layouts. We've got Donington Park on January 11th, and it's Brands Hatch on January 18th to finish the winter 25/26 season. So a great calendar looking ahead of us today. It is going to be a tight championship for those behind our current championship leader. It is a dominant run so far from David Johansson. He has 2 victories this season, the same amount as Dan Mould, but he has been able to put in a more consistent race results outside of his victories. What that does mean is that we do see David Johansson at the very top of the championship standings right now with 86 points to his name. Dan Mould is in second, but he is 23 points back. It is a big gap to David Johansson. Now, there are going to be 2 drop events in this series where throughout the whole weekend, the worst point haul in an entire weekend will be combined and dropped. The worst 2 of those won't count, which means that once those drop weeks come into effect, we are going to see these points start to go down. That is for, well, the points gap certainly go down, and well, for now, the points overall go down once those drop weeks are applied. Jan Mild, very consistent, not been doing, hasn't been getting wins, hasn't been getting up there all the time, but actually Jan Mild's consistency is breaking through here, sitting with 51 points, a further 12 points behind Mould, and does hold on to third right now. Ronald de Jong is in fourth, but it is so close between the three drivers there, Ronald de Jong, Hayden Ahmed, and James Paisley Knight. Matt Neal, as I said, fastest in the practice session at the moment. That gap has come down to a quarter of a second to Thomas Brown, who now is in second. But Matt Neal taking his first win of the season at round number 6 last time out at Donington, and managed to get the win in that final race of the day. Stephen Hurd, he managed to get a win in the opening race at Donington at round number 4, and is in 8th in the championship ahead of teammate Paul Titmer. And it is Scott Malcolm who rounds out the top 10 at the moment. Heading further down your championship, you've got Gregory Speakman sitting in 11th right now, ahead of Thomas Batchelor in 12th. We will not see Jack Burgess continue this series, but he is currently with 27 points to his name, ahead of Nico Steros. Riley Pogue sitting in 15th. We won't see Oliver Heron back either, but he sits with 20 points to his name, ahead of Demis Titchler. Harry Hallworth we also said goodbye to, and he sits on 18 points. Pete Paver is with 19 points, ahead of Lee Sants, who is also not going to be competing again for the rest of this season. Daniel Crisp sits with 7 points ahead of Thomas Brown. I say Brown at the moment, he is sitting 22nd in the championship. He did not have a great set of rounds back at Donington. However, he is second fastest at the moment in this session. He is running around with teammates, though, getting in those lap times at the front. So could be using those to his benefit. We also will not see Turkinson, Pritchard, or Turkinson out again there at the back of the standings. And then Marek Lelius is here for the first time today, and we'll be hoping to get some points on the board under his name. Top 15 score points in this series. So if you want to get points, you are going to have to get into that top 15. Luckily for all drivers at the moment, there's 15 cars who are going to be competing tonight, which means everyone has a chance to get some points on the board. How many is it going to be, though, for our drivers? In fact, as I look here, David Johansson, who is leading the championship, has taken 2 wins in both the second races of the days, is not here today, which gives Dan Mould a great opportunity to close up and move into the lead of this this championship. Jan Mild is 3rd overall in the championship course. He is 7th in the standings at the moment. But some good times from Matt Neal, Thomas Brown, and Thomas Batchelor out the front. Batchelor and Mould only separated by 0.08 of a second here. Let's talk about the track that we are racing around today then. It is, as I say, the full Snetterton 300 layout for the third week of competition for the 7th, 8th, and 9th rounds of the season. Almost 3 miles long, 13 turns. It is going to be a very tightly contested field. We are going to have a lot of slipstreaming, though, along the pit straight and along the back straights, just before some overtaking opportunities, of course, at the hairpin of turn number 2. And I would even say, if you're risking it enough under the, if you go underneath the bridge up towards the tight right-hander before the end of the lap, you could have an opportunity there as well. It is going to be an extremely close battle, as it always has been in this series. There has been continuous fights for all the positions. We expect the same again today. Practice then is now officially over, and qualifying will begin in just a moment's time, with all of our drivers going to be heading out to try and put their cars onto the front of the grid and get themselves into the best position possible for the 7th round of asking. Dan Mould, David Johansson, the only other 2 drivers who have got pole position so far this season, and it won't be going to David Johansson's way because he is not here today. However, it could very possibly go Dan Mould's way yet again, but will we see a third different pole sitter is the question. We've got the Alpha Corsa team all heading out together here. They know how important it is going to be to get this slipstream. So we do have the 3 Alpha Corsa teammates running around. Matt Neal at the back of this one, Thomas Batchelor in the middle, and Thomas Brown at the front of this train. In fact, that was Matt Neal there going to the middle of this train of drivers. This is going to prove the point in which teammates is going to be an important part of qualifying this season, especially around circuits such as this one. I believe that was De Jong, maybe even Titcher just behind there, trying to get a distant toe from these 3 teammates, but a bit too far back to really gain anything. We'll continue to watch these drivers as they come around here and head up towards the back straight, and we'll just see how much this is going to matter, this long straights here of all the drivers. We are going to actually ride on board with Thomas Batchelor here in at the rear of this train of Alpha Corsa drivers. And the 3 of them will be working together here. Oh, a bit of a slide there up ahead. That was from Thomas Brown. Batchelor getting onto the back end of Neal here. The 3 drivers are going to want to be close, but not too close to each other. Of course, Brown is going to be without the slipstream on this first qualifying lap, so I'm sure they'll be swapping themselves around as they go around the laps here. But let's have a look to see what they can do. It is the Alpha Corsa teammates who are all going to come across the line together here. The 3 drivers all together out on track. We can see a couple of pairs working up there, but a lot of drivers out here by themselves, which is going to be great news for the Alpha Corsa team, as that is a huge slide there from Matt Neal, and he holds it just about. And that will be a significant amount of time lost there for Neal. But he does keep on pushing, and he does stay in front of Batchelor, in fact, which I think is a bit of a surprise. I thought when he swerved all the way to the right that he would allow Batchelor through on this lap, but no, he doesn't. He stays where he is at the moment in the middle of this train of drivers. As drivers are going to come around, we will get the first laps in this qualifying session in a short moment's time. It is a long lap here, being almost 3 miles long for these drivers. It is going to be really important that they put in the best laps that they possibly can here as they head around now onto this back straight. What it also does mean, the fact that there are a very limited amount of laps really for these drivers on how long the track is. We're certainly not going to see anyone pitting for fresh tyres or to refuel. As there goes Thomas Brown out of the way at the perfect point there, where he is now going to go to the back of this train of drivers. This was not going to be a fast lap for him anyway, so he drops back to the rear of the train because he is now going to get the tow on the next lap, and it will be Matt Neal delivering the tow on the next run. Of course, Neal does need a better lap than this one because he did slide off of the circuit at turn number 1, so we'll need to go again in the train of drivers. But it is now Matt Neal leading the Alpha Corsa team there across the line. This is De Jong coming across the line behind as well. De Jong goes second fastest. In fact, even with the slide, Neal has held on the overall fastest lap there at the league. That's Pogue in 4th position, sorry, a second off at the moment. But and along the line comes Hayden Ahmed as well. There is Theros, Titchler across the line. Mould goes 3rd. Titchler, an invalid lap it looks like for Titchler, but he does have now a train of drivers in front of him that will be wanting to use to his benefit. Pete Paver goes into 9th position. You can see some slow lap times there for those outside of the top 5. So they will be wanting to improve. Dan Mould just 0.003 of a second slower than De Jong, and will be wanting to improve on his lap. He is in a slipstream at the moment. He sits behind the number 74, Scott Malcolm. Malcolm moves out his way there a little bit slow. That isn't going to be great news for Mold. Matt Neal has pulled significantly away from the two behind him, his two teammates there. As Bachelor it goes behind Brown now. As Brown going for the lap, but Neal staying at the front of this train, does not back down to go behind the train. He is going to continue pushing all on his own. What can Thomas Brown do on this lap? And I've noticed here that Johansson is here today. He was in the midst of joining when we jumped across into the qualifying session, so Johansson will be going out there and could go for extending his lead in the championship. Neal there, a huge amount of time out the front. Brown goes into second. A great job for the number 18 machine. Will now be trying to pull Bachelor up. It is teammates first and second right now. Demis Titchler sits in, well, without a time on the board. Can he come around and get a time on the board this time around is going to be the question as they come up towards the timing line. They cross the line, and it is going to be a time on the board of 8 as Dan Mold has moved into second position now. So it is going to be extremely tight for our championship leaders at the front, who are wanting to move up the order and try to get yet another pole position. But Neal looking to try and get his first pole position of the season. That is his hope, if he is able to find just a little bit more time as they continue to head around at the moment. Here he is, in fact, and again getting a nice bit of tow from in front of him. Trying to figure out who that is in front of him right now. Waiting to see a car number. It is Nico Steros who sits in front of him, the 188 machine. Steros currently 7th in this qualifying session and looking to try and get a little bit faster than that at the moment. 2.2 off of the lead. He moves to the right-hand side. That's Jan Mild in the 24 machine on the left-hand side. Mild 3rd in the championship, so this low position right now not going to be extremely helpful for him. But we'll be hoping for a little bit better in the races. The consistency is what matters as Mold backs out of that lap. This is David Johansson coming around the final turn there as Bachelor moves into 3rd position. It's teammates 1st, 3rd and 4th right now. They're not able to steal the very front of the field at the moment, but this is Johansson putting in a time just good enough for 13th place, but he will go on to one more lap of asking. However, with how much is left in this qualifying session, I don't think Johansson is going to be able to improve from this quite lowly good position from the championship leader here. Almost all drivers still out on the field. Mold and Malcolm have decided to go down pit lane. Daniel Crisp is without a lap time at the moment, but and it looks like we'll just about get a lap time in. Daniel Crisp crosses the line. Will it be a lap time for the man in the number 11 machine? It won't be. Daniel Crisp will start this race number 1 and round number 7 from the back of the field as Bachelor and Brown continue to support each other here. Both of them less than half a tenth away from Dan Mold. If they can find just that half a tenth here, they could find themselves with their teammate Matt Neal at the front. Mold not out on track, so will not improve. But it looks like we are going to be getting a 3rd different pole sitter in 3 qualifying sessions this season. Neal currently on that provisional pole slot. This is Thomas Brown. He's following Thomas Bachelor. 2 teammates come up towards the end of the lap here and go round the final turn, but it won't be enough time to get in the end of that session, and they will have to start from 3rd and 4th position respectively. A really poor qualifying result there from Johansson, and he wasn't here during practice. He has just jumped in, which is probably why it's a little bit lower than they would have hoped for. However, Matt Neal will start this one from pole position ahead of Dan Mould. It is Thomas Batchelor in third and Thomas Brown from fourth position. Ronald de Jong will start in fifth ahead of Riley Pogue. Then it'll be Hayden Ahmed in seventh, Nika Steros in eighth position, Demis Titchler will start in ninth ahead of Jan Mild. Scott Malcolm will start in 11th with Marek Alelius in 12th position. 13th will be for David Johansson ahead of Pete Paver, Gregory Speakman, and then Daniel Crisp at the back of the order. Daniel Crisp sitting in that 16th position. 16th is the only position in this race that will not be scoring any points. So one unlucky driver will be walking away from the race here without a point to his name. Who will it be? However, drivers at the front be hoping it won't be them. Matt Neal, a very poor opening two races at Donington, sitting on those dry tyres in the wet conditions. However, the reverse grid came to help him, and he went on to win again on those dry tyres. He had to wait for them to come in, and he managed to move his way to the front of the field. He's starting today on pole position, though, so starting as he left off. Here we go. We prepare ourselves for the 12 minutes of racing here. It should be about 7 laps. We are green. We are away off of the line here at Snetterton for round number 7. Matt Neal is on the inside, and it is going to be Dan Mould to the middle, trying to take the lead now around the outside line, and Mould moves straight into the lead of this race ahead of Matt Neal. Behind, the drivers are having to go side by side as they try to look for any position they can. Neal tries to hold on to Batchelor here. Ahead of Brown, does so as the teammates fall in second, third and fourth position. That could be a move here from Titchler, trying to get past Ahmed if possible. The two teammates there of de Jong and Titchler either side of Ahmed. Ahmed not with his backup here this week, as Paisley Knight is not racing today. That was to the inside. Daniel Crisp looks past Pete Paver for 15th, does so side by side just to have Scott Malcolm, gets past Deros, and Jan Mild moves past Gregory Speakman as well on the opening lap of this 7-lapped race, as they head now up towards the back end of the circuit. Speakman and Lelius side by side. Speakman on the outside, Lelius on the inside line, as the two teammates there running different cars actually, Lelius and Mild, but they are running within the same team, so they'll be hoping for some good results here. What can Ronald de Jong do as he tries to close onto the back of Thomas Brown? Alpha Corsa here holding second, third and fourth in this race, and will be trying to hold on to some good results in this one, as Daniel Crisp and Pete Paver once again side by side at the back of this field. Daniel Crisp to the inside of Paver though, and looks to take a point in this race. Pete Paver down a couple of spots from the start of the race at the moment, but it is Dan Mild who leads the way at the front of the field. He started, Dan Mild started in second, and it is Matt Neal who moves into down to second position, and will now try to recover and move back into the lead if possible. Dan Mould looking for his third win this season. Matt Neal looking for his second. He took the win at the 6th round of asking last time out. Can he take it here at round number 7? As off the circuit ever so slightly there was Hayden Ahmed, running just slightly wide. Gets it back on though, a little bit of a wobble. Titchler all over the rear, really wants to move past the number 14, because you can see the top 5 cars here just pulling away as Ahmed runs the normal line. Titchler looks to the inside, can't do anything with that at the moment as we ride on board here with Titchler as he looks to try and get to the inside of Hayden Ahmed. Can't quite make that move, will have to stay behind for now. That's Riley Pogue sitting just behind them at the moment as well. He sits in 8th, wanting to move up the order if he possibly can, as Titchler follows Ahmed through to the back end of the lap. But it is a switch up ahead as Mould and Batchelor It looks like, oh no, it looks like it was just an issue with my timing screen, and Neil has remained in second ahead of Bachelor, and Mould remains in the lead. At the moment, it's about hovering about half a second between each of those drivers at the front of the field right now. Titchler still on the rear end of Ahmed. Riley Pogue now also trying to do something here, but he runs off the circuit ever so slightly and could invite David Johansson up the order. Johansson recovering from a poor qualifying position, and the Sim Racing Grid driver who leads the championship will want to try and get up a couple more positions. It has been his consistency that has placed him in the lead of this championship, because he has the same amount of wins as Dan Mould but sits over 20 points clear. He is going to need a good race once more if he wants to continue to have a dominant championship lead. Theros on the outside of Scott Malcolm here. Malcolm holds the inside line through turn number 1. Is it going to be a switch across, as we saw just up ahead again? Titchler looking to go for a move, couldn't quite work it out. Theros ducked to the inside of Malcolm, no space to make the move up the inside there. Pogue follows behind Titchler as they continue to push. Of course, driving standards this week are going to be a lot higher than they were at Donington. A lot of names put under the chopping block following that weekend, and a lot of drivers now realising that it is going to be a series that you are going to need to do some good, clean driving, some hard racing for sure in these touring cars, and I can't wait for that reverse top 6 where the drivers are going to have to try and make their order. What a move there from Pogue! Tries to get to the inside, but it now loses him the speed, and Johansson goes to the outside line onto the back straight. It's a tighter line for Pogue here. He can carry just a bit more speed. Johansson now right behind Pogue will be looking to try and take 8th position in this race. Mould continues to lead the way. Neil unable to close that gap down enough to be able to make the move, as that's a big mistake there from Titchler. Titchler goes very, very deep, almost contact with Ahmed. No contact in the end, just avoids that. Pogue swung out to the right to get past Titchler, almost collecting Johansson with that. Somehow in all of that, there is no contact. Issues for Scott Malcolm, flashing his lights there. Something has happened just before the deep right handle. Is it through bomb hole? It's through bomb hole. Here comes Theros up the inside. Theros was definitely alongside, but Malcolm flashes his lights in any case. But through bomb hole there, it was an inside line move from Theros that has knocked Scott Malcolm down to 13th. He's looking to get up the inside of Lilias here. Can't quite make that, and it looks like the teammates might go at it here. Lilias to the inside of Jan Mild, and looks to take that position, and does so. Marek Lilias gets past Jan Mild, moves up into 11th position. Mild now 3rd in the championship, down to 12th in this race, but it has been the consistency from Mild that has placed them into the 3rd in the championship. And of course, only 6 rounds done so far, 30 rounds to go to do this season, which means that consistency over the next 24 rounds, this one including, are going to be important. Johansson all over the rear end of Pogue here. He's looking to try and get up into 8th position. Will he be able to make the move this time around? We go on to the back of the circuit. And again, it's just tucking right into the rear end, and does get to the left-hand side. Has a wheel in now, so will be able to get to the inside through the left-hander. It will be holding it around the outside, or Pogue backs out of that one. Pogue does not want to run side by side here. Decides, okay, I'll give you the position for now. Will not be giving up, I'm sure, though. And Pogue will be looking to try and get back past Johansson for the 8th position. Titchler onto the grass there, and has now allowed Johansson to get onto his rear end, as Hayden Ahmed continues to hold 6th. It's almost 6 seconds to the drivers ahead, so Ahmed doing a great job of placing his car exactly where it needs to be, and that is a look to the inside from Johansson. The grass stops him going there, but he ducks back to the inside as we head up towards turn number 1. Is Johansson going to put a nose in on Dennis Titchler? Yes, Dennis Titchler has to drop behind on that one, And here comes Pogue to take advantage of the slower Titular now. Due to that overtake, Pogue to the inside. Titular turns across to the right. Just enough space there to place his car, and Pogue will have to remain behind in 9th place for now. But Johansson has now got up to 7th. Can he dispatch Hayden Ahmed here for a 6th place result, which will be a great recovery from 13th on the grid? As we actually have a look, and we can see that Dave Johansson is the only driver to move more than just one position up the order here. Dan Mould has moved up 1, Hayden Ahmed has moved up 1, David Johansson has moved up 6 positions since the start of this race. He's looking to make that 7 if he can get past Hayden Ahmed, but this one is a lot calmer than what we saw in the races last week, and that is great for our drivers as they're now really racing each other instead of just avoiding drivers who aren't racing so cleanly. Bachelor here sits in 3rd, trying to keep up with teammate Matt Neal. Neal down to a 2nd behind Dan Mould. Mould leading this way here quite dominantly out the front by almost 1.5 seconds now. Bachelor closes up to Matt Neal. Will we see inter-team battling, or will we see them running in order here? Because they do have De Jong just behind them, and they could throw away a 2nd, 3rd, 4th here for the team. Of course, no team's championship in this one. It is all just drivers' championship, but the team. The teams do still mean something to the drivers, of course, as it is Thomas Brown, the rear of that train of Alpha Corsa drivers that goes fastest overall last lap. But Johansson now looks to the inside of Ahmed. Ahmed looking to carry the speed around the outside in his Hyundai, and he does so. The Honda not able to make that move, and that goes defensive from Ahmed. Ahmed has done a great job of keeping his car exactly where it needs to be. He continues to do so. David Johansson, championship leader, unable to make his way through at the moment as we head around towards the last lap of asking, as we've got about 1.5 laps left to go. Titular running a slightly wider line there. Pogue not able to do anything to get back up into 8th. But here goes Johansson now to the inside of Hayden Ahmed. They're side by side. Johansson gets it. Ahmed on that wider line. It just doesn't work out for him. And Hayden Ahmed down to 7th now. Could be under attack from Demis Titular and Riley Pogue if he doesn't get it composed straight away. But it looks like he got himself straight back onto the racing line. He has not lost really any time with that overtake from Johansson. Johansson just ducking up the inside, just taking that position as they now head up once more towards the end of the back straight. That fast left-hander, it's easy to get the braking wrong here. We've seen a couple of cars sliding, but these drivers getting it done nice and easily today for the most part, as Pogue running a slightly wider line there, but it does continue to be a clean race for those battling there for 6th position, now being led by championship leader Johansson as the checkered flag comes out a lap earlier than asking. Again, that 12 minutes ticking down quicker than the lap count, but Dan Mould wins the race ahead of Matt Neal. Bachelor takes 3rd ahead of Brown, and De Jong comes home in 5th position. It is going to be a battle to the line though, and Pogue is going to take Titular on the line. That was all about the exit here. Let's watch this. Contact ahead as Titular touches the rear end of Ahmed, gets him slow on the exit, and Riley Pogue moves through and takes that position as they go across the line. But a win for Mould, his first win since Alton Park here at the 7th round of asking. That is this one done then. Race number 1 of the day completed. And let's get a look at our grid then for race number 2, which will be the same order as race number 1 ended. So Dan Mould won that one, and so he will be starting from the front of the field ahead of Matt Neal. Then it was Thomas Bachelor, behind him Thomas Brown. Ronald de Jong was finished in 5th. We'll start this one in 5th position. It then David Johansson behind. We then had Hayden Ahmed in 7th out of Riley Pogue and titular. Theros finished in 10th out of Lalius and Mild. And then it was Malcolm, Paver and Chris to the 15th. And Gregory Speakman will start from the back of the field. No points in race number 1 for Speakman, but we will prepare for the second race of asking here. It will once again be 12 minutes, and now we can expect it to be a 6-lap race, because that's how long it was in the first race of the day. In fact, we're going to keep it as a timer this time, as I think that our timer will be more accurate for us than our lap count, as we now head up and prepare ourselves for round number 8. We are go here at Snetterton for race number 2, the 8th round of the season. Dan Mould from the front of the field will take the inside line up towards turn number 1. It is the 2 teammates in the Alpha Corsa teams that are going to go side by side yet again, and this looks like Bachelor to the inside of Neil. No, he backs out of it, decides not to go for that move as the drivers behind all get themselves around now. Titular and Pogue side by side here. Titular's to the inside of Pogue as they head around and they get through cleanly. Pogue onto the grass, but they settle themselves down ahead. Will they settle themselves down behind? It almost is. Pogue dives the inside, but Titular turns into an overtake on Hayden Ahmed here. Gets that move done as Pogue tries to get Ahmed, and there's a contact ahead. Drivers avoiding the wreck there. But it looks like it is Ronald de Jong involved in that contact. Side by side here ahead. As still, Ahmed is side by side. Now in Nico's Theros. Ahmed to the inside. Theros trying to hold that outside line here. And we head up towards the fast left-hander. Will anyone back out of this one? As there's a swap in position. Bachelor gets past Neil for second position at the front. It's side by side here though. And Hayden Ahmed will have to drop behind Theros, as it looks like major issues there for Neil as he drops another position to Johansson. As Johansson sneaks his way through there. What has happened here? There was something going on between the Alpha Corsa team ahead, and there goes Johansson to the inside. A little bit of contact on the exit, but that's a very late move there, and you can see Neil not too happy with that one. But Johansson now up into third position in this race, behind Thomas Bachelor, who's moved to second. It looked like actually involved in that early accident was Thomas Brown as well. Was Thomas Brown involved in the accident with Ronald de Jong? Let's find out. This is what happened in that contact. It is going to be Ronald de Jong and Thomas Brown, and it is going to be de Jong just squeezing Brown out to the wall, the Alpha Corsa into the wall, along with the racing courses fueled by Hydro Race team there, and that is a shame in that accident, but that is Thomas Brown then with some major damage on the front end. So what was a really great race number 1 for the Alpha Corsa team is turning into a bit of a nightmare here. Thomas Brown tries to get up the inside of Hayden Ahmed. Can't make that move. If Dan Mould is able to go back to back here and take the win here in round number 8, it will be the first time we have a back-to-back race winner. And it will be only the second time that we have the same winner in the same a race winner win more than once in the same weekend. Of course, the last time Dan Mould was on track to do that at Oulton Park, he did crash out from the lead of the race. All drivers still in this race will be scoring points then, because it is only Ronald de Jong down and out of it as this one continues. He is down pit lane. Following that accident then, as Thomas Brown continues to recover. He's in 9th position right now, behind Hayden Ahmed and Nico Theros, after some side-by-side action as we come up now towards the end of the lap. Nico Theros leading Brown through here, leading Ahmed through here, leading Brown, leading Jan Mild. Mild issues in that championship standings, of course, following the previous race. In fact, let's see if we can get a full championship order at the moment. This is how the championship standings will look at the end of this race, if this one comes to a close, David Johansson will still be our championship leader, as this is Ahmed to the outside of Dero. There's contact, and here comes Thomas Brown to the inside of Ahmed. There's just about enough room for Brown to get up the inside there, but it's not going to be enough to get through. And he switches across to get to the inside of Hayden Ahmed, and there's contact, and once again Brown involved in contact with a Hyundai, and he comes back on. Oh my word, I thought it was about to be contact there. Both drivers down the order, Ahmed down to 10th, Brown down to 11th there. As Brown's recovery has just taken a bit of a step back there following that contact as we come up to halfway through this race. Dan Mould leads the way quite nicely over Thomas Batchelor. Johansson here holding on to third ahead of Matt Neal. Pete Paver getting past Gregory Speakman. It looks like there could have been some issue there. Let's see how that played out in a moment's time, as this is Lolius on the outside of Speakman trying to get that position as well. Does not. This is how that overtake went, however, for Pete Paver. That's Speakman up ahead. It looks like Speakman may have had an issue. He certainly looks like he's got some front end damage there on the front right of the machine. And it is just going to be a wide line there, isn't it? Pete Paver just getting to the inside. Speakman not able to do anything with his damage there, and will fall down that position. Does hold on to Lolius at the moment, however. Riley Pogue behind Titcherer, looking to try and take a top 5 in this second race of the day. He closes into the rear. Is he going to move to the inside? He certainly is. Titcherer on the outside. Pogue on the inside. Riley Pogue gets that move done. Riley Pogue moves up into a top 5 position and will now be taking home the 11 points for that contact there from Titcherer behind, trying to push Pogue a little bit wide. Can't do anything in that recovery overtake there, and will have to remain behind in 6th position at the moment. 5 minutes left on the clock as Johansson still trying to close up to Batchelor here, about 0.4 of a second between them, as they head towards the back end of the back half of the lap, as there's a swap for position as Lolius gets around the outside of Speakman. It will switch across to the left-hand side and the inside line for Lolius, so that will be a move nicely done. This is the battle for second once more. Johansson chasing down Batchelor in this one. He has moved up once again a number of positions in this race. There has been some changes for drivers. Jan Mild and Scott Malcolm, the two biggest changes so far this race, both up for David Johansson himself. Up to third here, he is up 3 positions in this race. Started race number 1 from 13th, finished 6th of course, so a bit of a charge up the order in the first race of the day. Here in race number 2, it's a little bit slower of a charge, but he has managed to find his way to the podium. 1.5 seconds behind Mould here. But of course, in race number 3, we are going to see the top 6 in this one reverse. We will see a couple of different drivers towards the front of the field. Mould will have to make his way through if he wants to win yet another race. At this rate, Dan Mould is looking to take his 4th win of the season. That was some contact in the background, and Thomas Brown has been disqualified from this race. That will be for instant limit, which was introduced this week. 15x instant limit, and you will see the black flag and a disqualification, and that was contact ahead that then turned into contact with Brown. That is a real shame for Thomas Brown. Scott Malcolm just clipped by Hayden Ahmed and slid the car into Brown. Malcolm coming down pit lane there with a meatball flag. This is the fight now for 12th position out of Pete Paver as we come through turn number 1. Speakman leading Paver in their fight for 12th position. Speakman looking to try and get a few more points on the board for himself here today, as he sits further down the championship order than I think he would have been hoping for at this stage. Johansson still on the rear end of Batchelor right now. Neal in the middle of nowhere. He's got 2 seconds to Johansson. He's got 5 seconds back to Pogue. Titular still on the back of Pogue as well, but right now we're going to watch Johansson chase down Bachelor. Could this be a potential overtaking opportunity, as next lap is going to likely be the final lap of the race? So Johansson, if he wants to take this position, is going to have to do it as soon as possible right now. But we ride on board with Bachelor. He sits in second position ahead of Johansson right now. Johansson, fastest man out there on the circuit this race as we get up towards the braking zone. There is going to be bonus points for the fastest lap of the race as well, I believe. 1 bonus point for the fastest lap, which I don't think are calculated actually in our live championship standings. I will have to double check that before next week. But across the line to go on to what will be the last lap of the race. Bachelor leading Johansson, Mold leading this race. 0.2 of a second between them, and it opens up a little bit into turn number 1. Can Johansson do anything to take this position? He goes deep on the brakes there. He runs extremely wide, almost hitting the back end of Bachelor, and will have to back out of that battle, and he won't be able to do anything there. Paver once again here looking to try and get past Speakman as they come up now to their last lap of the race. It's just a couple of tenths of a second between them right now. Paver starting this one in 14th, looking to try and get into 12th position right now as we come up towards turn number 1. Speakman does have the inside line. Paver backs out of that one. Is Paver going for the faster exit? That's certainly what it looks like right about now. Backed out a lot more than you otherwise would there. Didn't quite work out, but this could though. Speakman runs wide through turn number 2. Paver once again all over the rear here. Could try and get that position. And this is just going to remain in single file right now. Back up towards our front. Dan Mold is 8/10 clear. Johansson goes extremely late on the brakes there, almost straight into the back of Bachelor. Really thought there was going to be contact there. There somehow was not. And they are going to remain in the same order there. But Dan Mold, for the first time this season, will take back-to-back victories in the first 2 races of the day. Dan Mold takes his 4th win of the season. It won't place him at the front of the championship, but it's side by side behind. Johansson is going to get Bachelor on the line. Johansson takes 2nd position. Bachelor drops down to 3rd place. Let's just have another watch of that. It was on the exit. There was a little bit of contact. But they go side by side and on a drag race to the line. It was Johansson who came out on top in that one. As the rest of the field all follows through there. It was Bachelor in 3rd ahead of Neil. Pogue took home 5th possession ahead of Titular. Theros took home 7th ahead of Mild and Ahmed. Crisp coming home in 10th. Lelius crossed the line 11th. Then Speakman beats Paver to the line, 12th and 13th between them. And Scott Malcolm will finish this one in 14th and a fair way down the order. Thomas Brown DQ'd from this one. And De Jong out of the race following the contact at the start of the race. That is going to be race number 2 here then, done and dusted for all of our drivers. And with us already talking through the grid then, let's have a look at how the championship standings in the top 10 look out of the 8th round of Asking. 2 races done here. David Johansson will hold on to the lead of the championship, and he does so by 18 points over Dan Mold, which means there is no way that Johansson is going to lose the championship lead into the final race of the day, even if he retires and Dan Mold takes a 3rd victory. Matt Neal has moved into 3rd in the championship ahead of Jan Mild. Now Hayden Ahmed remains in 5th ahead of Ronald De Jong, who moves up to 6th. Thomas Bachelor up to 7th position there. James Paisley Knight drops down to 8th position. Riley Pogue moves into the top 10, as does Scott Malcolm. those points do not matter, so don't ignore about those ones. That's if the races were to finish the way they are now. So let's have a little bit of a look at our grid for our final race of the day. It's top 6 reverse. So Titchler will start in first position ahead of Riley Pogue. Matt Neal will start in third ahead of Thomas Batchelor. David Johansson in 5th, and Dan Mould, our race 1 and race 2 winner, will start in 6th. Then we've got Theros ahead of Mild, Ahmed in 9th ahead of Daniel Chris, Lolius in 11th, Gregory Speakman in 12th position, Pete Paver will start from 13th ahead of Scott Malcolm, Thomas Brown, and Ronald de Jong. This is round number 9, the third and final race of the day. And 12 minutes on the clock once more for the final time today. Drivers are going to be preparing themselves off. And we are green here for round number 9 at Snetterton. Away they go, but a very poor launch from most of our drivers out front. And that is actually going to allow Matt Neal to the inside into turn number 1. Riley Pogue holds the outside line. It's side by side behind. Dan Mould already up to 3rd position. Johansson down to 4th. Titchler here, side by side. Titchler goes to the inside. Contact with Johansson. Titchler pushing. Johansson off the circuit there. There's more contact behind. And it looks like Thomas Batchelor is around this time. He gets it back facing the right way. Johansson gets to the inside of Titchler this time. Moves up into 4th position. Theros getting past Titchler as well, as we see that is Scott Malcolm off onto the glass. Even in this reverse grid with only the top 6 reversed, it is a heavy start to the beginning of this one. Major fights going on as we now head up towards the back end of this lap. Matt Neal leads the way ahead of Dan Mould. Riley Pogue is in 3rd position. Johansson in 4th. Theros in 5th. Thomas Brown in 6th position as we get onto the back straight now. These drivers already gaps between them as they have to settle themselves down, as this is a battle going on. Batchelor side by side with Speakman looking to try and get up the order. Ahmed and Theros going for a fight there as Theros got a slow exit. Titchler some major front end damage to his machine, but he does keep on going right now as there continues to be a fight behind. Lolius now to the back of the field. A little bit of contact with Daniel Chris, but we still see all 16 drivers in this one, which is excellent for our drivers they head around. Batchelor here looks to the inside of Pete Paver. If he is able to hold this line through, he will move into 11th position, and he does, but Paver comes back up the inside now, forcing Batchelor off and around. Goes Scott Malcolm in the background. A little bit of contact there with Lolius as he comes back on, but flashing lights there from Batchelor. I'm not surprised. Theros now looking to get up the inside of Titchler through turn number 1. They go side by side. Theros looking to get 7th position right now onto the breaking points of turn number 2. And he gets through into the 7th place slot right now. Titchler's front end damage is going to be hurting him on the straights, but he's got the exit there, which will move him across to the inside line, and he will hold on to 7th right now. Switches back across, won't be able to do it. Neal took the pole at the first race of the day, was not able to take the win, coming home in 2nd position, coming home in 4th in race number 2. Can he take the win here in the final race of the day? He took the win at the final race in Donington, so he's looking for his 2nd win of the season here in round number 9, if he can do it. It's 4 wins so far for Dan Mould, and he will be looking for a 5th. Once again, Mould not the championship leader, even with those 4 wins under his belt. It's side by side now. Pogue to the left, Brown to the right. Is Pogue going to back out of this one? He did in an earlier race. He didn't want to go side by side. He does the same here. And Thomas Brown now up to 4th position. Johansson has a 2.5 second gap to Dan Mould ahead. So will need to really push if he wants to close that up, of course. Just having 12 minutes in these races can be really tricky. Side by side between Chris and Speakman. Speakman on the outside line, holds that on Chris. Here comes Scott Malcolm to look up the inside of Daniel Chris. We'll have to wait behind for now. Marek Lolius there looking to do something in that 16th position. Remember, the 16th place does not score any points. It's just the top 15 scoring points. Neil continuing to dominate in this race, moves 1.5 seconds out the front and puts in a fast lap of a 57.8, which is the fastest lap we've seen in a race all weekend long. De Jong on the outside of Theros there. Theros holds on to 8th position, but what was an attack on Titular has turned into being under attack from Titular's teammate. De Jong now to the inside, and Jan Mild is going to try and follow through up the inside of Nico Theros. Jan Mild gets that move. Can they confirm it before the left-hander? No, it's side by side between Mild and Theros right now, as they hold on to this fight for 9th and 10th. It will once again be an inside line for Theros. That's a little bit of contact there, but Mild holding the speed on the outside. Theros has just got it though. The inside line pushes the car wide. Nowhere that Mild can do. Bachelor behind, looking to recover here, but has quite a lot of time to make up. The lead at the front down now to just a second. So Matt Neal has obviously had a bit of a slow start to this lap, and something has changed for him to lose a sudden half a second there. As this race continues on, a great movement from Thomas Brown in this one. He has moved up to 4th position from 15th on the grid. He has moved much more than David Johansson did in race number 1. So this is an absolute great job right now from Brown. Ronald de Jong has moved up 9 positions, currently sits in 7th after DNFing in the second race of the day, and Dan Mould up 4 positions from that 6th position with the restart. This has been a great job so far for Thomas Brown as he continues around in 4th, and only a couple of seconds behind Johansson, has pulled 2.5 seconds from Riley Pogue here. It looks like we may have had some issue from Scott Malcolm. Malcolm was running around in 14th position, and it looks like it is the sharp right-hander goes over, and is it up to Bombhole? It's just before Bombhole goes around. Lolius there slowing down, not happy with the contact themselves. Probably very, very apologetic there as it slowed down, but Scott Malcolm there up the positions. Bachelor gets past Mild as well as we continue on this race. As right now Matt Neal doing a great job to hold on. Can De Jong do anything on Ahmed here? De Jong half a second behind Hayden Ahmed, and that looks like Titular's had a mistake actually. Titular has gone off somewhere because Titular was ahead, of course, for the this battle going on. I'm not sure when that happened. I'm trying to see if I can find when that happened. And it's gone. It's a bit too far for me to notice when Titular went off the circuit, but he has lost the positions to Nico Theros and to De Jong and to Ahmed. That being said, Bachelor is on the back end of Nico Theros here, so Bachelor could go for a move back through here into 9th position. It's on the right, rear end, moves to the right, using that toe to the benefit here. It's going to be a risk trying to hold it around the outside, side by side, but he's going to do it. In fact, Theros not wanting to do it, backs out. Bachelor gets straight onto the racing line, and no issues there. Johansson is saying to Mould, no you don't keep on catching up to me in this championship, thank you very much. I want 2nd place off of you, if you don't mind, sir, because Mould has recently had a major issue. That gap going from a second to 2.5 seconds for Dan Mould. He did recently go off track. Did it happen there? Let's find out. No, it's happened a little bit elsewhere, but he certainly had, you can see it's quite close at the moment, certainly had a major issue somewhere here for Dan Mould. Just not able to catch up where it might have been. Again, off the circuit, might have been just through that section on Bombhole again, as that's contact between Ahmed as De Jong goes up to his inside, touches his rear quarter panel, and now moves to the left-hand side. Ahmed doesn't want to leave that door open, gets it closed. De Jong cannot move up the inside right about now as we're getting up towards the end of this lap, end of this race, and actually the end of the lap as well. We're coming up towards the final lap of the race if we're going to go for 6 laps yet again. De Jong inside Ahmed a little bit there as the front bumper glitches through the rear bumper as the fun parts of the software like to do sometimes. De Jong, though, looking to go to the outside. Ahmed, a little bit of a wobble, holds that inside line. That tighter line, good for defence in the immediate run. However, Ahmed is going to be running slower than De Jong now. And you see De Jong is just able to hold it. All over the rear end, we could see an overtake here for 6th position if Ronald De Jong can get past Hayden Ahmed. De Jong goes to the outside line. Is he going to try and hold it on that position? Is Ahmed going to defend it? De Jong holds it on the outside. There's contact! De Jong tries to close the door just a little bit too much with Hayden Ahmed still on the inside there. They come together. Titular moves back through. Hayden Ahmed now down to 7th position. But I think you could argue Ahmed was still very much in there, stayed on his side of the circuit. But that will be for a review later on, as I've always said in the commentary box. I say my opinions on instance, but that doesn't mean anything. Of course, at the end of the day, it is the stewards that decide. In this case, it's Gregory Speakman who has a little look to see if there are any wrongdoings in contact. It's Hayden Ahmed looking to move back through to 6th position to get past Titular. Position that he lost after the contact with De Jong. He moves to the inside line here, and there's contact with De Jong's teammate this time, as it is sideways from Titular. Here comes Thomas Batchelor. He can see this fighting happening. He's to the inside of Hayden Ahmed, and he makes that position past Ahmed there. And Thomas Batchelor now could try and move up into 6th position. Ahmed looking to the inside. Batchelor swings to the inside line now in the Alpha Course machine. Looks to the inside of Demis Titular. Titular just holding on at the moment. As they continue on through, Batchelor holding behind Titular, looking to try and find a way through. The best location now will be through the fast left-hander. And Titular will be a little bit worried what happened to De Jong through there as Speakman and Leolas go side by side here. Leolas holds on that position right now. Fight for second is going on at the end of this lap as well, but they aren't close enough. Batchelor looks to the inside of Titular. Titular breaks late. Can he get it slowed down in time? He certainly does. Rides the curbing a lot. Matt Neal comes through the final corner. 10 seconds on the clock. Surely this is going to be checkered. It's been 6 laps in the first 2 races. Manuel comes across the line, flashes the lights. Is it checkered? No, it's white flag. For the first time today, I think Neil was expecting the checkered because he flashed his lights in celebration, but we're going to go one more lap here. As Titular holds on to Batchelor, holds on to Ahmed. Johansson behind Mould for second. I think almost everyone was expecting another 6-lap race here, which the first 2 have been. But that's just showing you the pace of Matt Neal. Just enough time to sneak in one additional lap as Titular has gone around and off. What has happened in that fight? For 6th position, has there been contact with Batchelor? Through turn number 2, Batchelor looks to the inside, and there is a big whack on the back of Titular. Titular off, and is down to 10th position now. That fight comes to a close as Johansson is all on the back of Dan Mould. As we head up towards the next left-hander, is going to be a fast one. Johansson has got the speed through there. We've seen Johansson doing some late moves. It's not worked out before. Oh, is it going to work out this time? No. Johansson dies to the inside. Mould will hold the inside line through the right-hander. They're side by side, but it's going to be Johansson ahead through bomb hold. Johansson leads the position ahead of Dan Mould on the final lap of asking. Johansson dispatches Mould. Mould slows. Has Mould got fuel issues because we've gone one additional lap? I think that's what's happened as Thomas Brown, disqualified from race 2, will take a podium in the final race of the day. Matt Neal takes the win at round 9. Riley Pogue gets past Dan Mould. I think Mould is out of fuel. Can he make it to the line? Thomas Batchelor will take 5th. Hayden Ahmed in 6th. There's a side-by-side fight behind between Theros and Mild. Who's going to get it? Because they wait side-by-side with Mould across the line. Mould took 7th, a 10th ahead of Theros, a 10th ahead of Mild. Pete Paver will come home in 7th. 11th position will be for Daniel Crisp. As no, that's fuel issues for so many cars across the line. Everyone expecting a 6-lapped race. That extra lap from Matt Neal giving teammate Thomas Brown the podium and teammate Thomas Batchelor 5th position. What a result there from Thomas Brown, because he came from the back of the grid to move up into 3rd. 12 positions gained in that race from Thomas Brown, and a 2nd win of the season for Matt Neal. He took his first win at the last race of the day in Donington. He takes his 2nd win at the last race of the day here at Snetterton, as they celebrate there. Matt Neal, Thomas Brown and Thomas Batchelor coming to join them as well, rolling around with minimal amount of fuel. A great day out then in race number 1 and race number 3 for the Alpha Corsa drivers. Not so much in race number 2, but that race comes to a close. And with that being said then, let's see what the final results were after all of the swapping around with the fuel issues. Matt Neal won that one ahead of David Johansson. Thomas Brown came home in 3rd position. Riley Pogue got 4th ahead of Thomas Batchelor and Hayden Ahmed. Dan Mould finished in 7th position in the end after running in 2nd all race long. Nico Steros came home in 8th position, just a 10th behind Mould. Mild just a further 10th back. Pete Paver took home 10th position. 11th position was Marek Lelius ahead of Daniel Crisp, who also had fuel issues. Demis Titchler, Ronald Dion, both those looked like they had fuel issues at the back as well, along with Gregory Speakman. And Scott Malcolm, without a point in that final race of the day, finished in 16th position then. Let's have a look at how our championship standings stand then, coming out of this one. These are all provisional standings, of course, and not fully 100% accurate, but coming out of that one, David Johansson is going to continue with the lead of the championship with 126 points, 24 points clear of Dan Mould again. The consistency being extremely important with these point systems, being 15th, 1st to 15th, 15 points for the win, 1st for 15th, and add only 1 point different each time. But it is going to be Matt Neal who moves into 3rd position in that championship. Hayden Ahmed up to 4th, with Jan Mild down to 5th position, 3rd heading into this weekend. Thomas Batchelor is in 6th position ahead of Ronald de Jong. Wiley Pogue is in 8th. Nika Steros in 9th, and James Paisley Knight not attending this week, dropping down to 10th. I hope you have enjoyed here, though, and I hope you are going to join us for the next one. Of course, we will be back out and live again next week at Thruxton on November 23rd, so do not miss it. Make sure you hit the follow button here on the Beehive Build Twitch channel, because what that will mean is that you get to see all of these amazing Sunday races, and you'll get notified when we go live, as well as all of the other races we do as well, including our Tuesday Mazda series and our Friday TCR series as well. But until next time at Thruxton, though, I hope you have a good week. To catch up with all of the races so far, head across to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@BeehiveBill, where you can catch up with all of the live streams so far this season, as well as the extended highlights from the first 6 rounds, as well as round 7, 8, and 9, which will be out before next Sunday. So until next time, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will catch you next week. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.